Hello, on Milwaukee. Happy Saturday. I hope you are enjoying your weekend thus far, and I hope you've been enjoying the Milwaukee Film Festival. It is day 10, a two whole hands worths of movies and film festival days. Hopefully, you've been checking out some really cool stuff. Let me know what you've been seeing in the comments. Let me know what you've been enjoying or not enjoying, or what you're looking forward to see at the Milwaukee Film Festival. Would love to know what you're checking out. And hopefully, while you're watching this, hopefully you're also checking out the pitch contest over at Milwaukee Film's YouTube and Facebook page, hosted by John Axford. I got to talk with John Axford the other day. You can find the interview on onmilwaukee.com right now. Really cool to talk with him about movies. I couldn't publish like half of our conversation because half of our conversation was talking about movies we'd seen recently. But he's a great guy. He hasn't been a member of the Brewers in almost a decade now, but he still contributes to the Milwaukee Film Festival, still sponsors films. He's emceeing the pitch contest. Really cool guy, really awesome guy. Love that he loves Milwaukee. Love that he loves the Milwaukee Film Festival. So definitely check out the pitch contest, which is cool in its own right too, because it's a bunch of people bringing their dream movie projects, presenting them to people. It's like Shark Tank, but film, and really cool stuff going on there. Highly recommend checking that out. I think that'll be live on their YouTube and Facebook page throughout the weekend and throughout the forever, I think, too. So you can check that out, hopefully, and see these awesome pitches. And say hi to John Axford again. John Axford was awesome. We got no qualms with John Axford. Yeah, he was a Cardinal for a brief time. But you know what? I think did he even win a World Series with the Cardinals? I think he went to the World Series with the Cardinals. I mean, good for him. He deserves to go to the World Series and maybe even win one too. But we are not here to talk about baseball, though we did talk a little bit about baseball. Boy, the Brewers, how do they feel about scoring runs? That'd be a cool thing. Runners batted in. Timely hitting with runners in scoring position. Would love to have a conversation about that. But anyways, let's talk about the movies that you should be checking out today. Once again, I like to pick kind of an eclectic bunch of movies so people get the idea that you will find more than just the usual. Like, you're not going to find just indie films. You're not going to find just documentaries. You can find such an oddball collection of great movies to check out at the Milwaukee Film Festival, no matter your genre choice, no matter your age. Which brings me to my first movie. I don't normally do a lot of kids' movies, but one that caught my eye in terms of a fun premise was Jackie and Opium, which is a movie from the Netherlands about a young girl whose mother is the museum curator, and she her in the middle of the night, it's kind of like a night at the museum situation, right before the debut of these two really impressive Rembrandt paintings. One of the paintings comes alive and just steps right out of the painting and is looking for her sister. And only Jackie can do it, and Jackie has to keep her away from the parents and stuff like that. If you liked Paddington, it's got a little bit of a Paddington vibe where it's like fantastical but grounded at the same time. Bright, colorful, generally just in the mood for a pleasant, good time. There are villains in the movie, but even the villains are like, a guy who kind of looks like a giant gerbil. So it's really a really pleasant movie, and I think it's very Night at the Museum-esque, but without the kind of manicness of Night at the Museum, where like Night at the Museum is constantly just being like throwing. So it's very American in its approach to kids entertainment, where it's just like we gotta throw things at kids and keep them so like constantly entertained. It's just like, no, you can just have like nice jokes and good fun characters as well. So I actually really enjoyed Jackie and Opium. I think we're Oopjin, but I believe it's pronounced Oopjin. And like, it's fun to watch a movie where like art history is a kids movie where art history is a key part of the plot. Like all these Rembrandt paintings kind of being forwarded. It was like, oh, that's nice. And also it's directed by a woman, written by a woman, and I'm pretty sure like the entire main cast is women, and it's all about female relationships and mother-daughter friendships, and it's a really sweet film. So if you're looking for something to watch with the kids today, and looks like, I think the forecast says it's going to be rainy or at least overcast for most of the day, so check out Jackie and Opium. For the complete opposite of a movie to watch with kids is Coming Home in the Dark, which is a mean, creepy horror movie from the Cinema Hooligante selection, where it's about a father and he's out with his family, and some bad stuff happens. They run into some people, some armed people who are up to no good, and there seems to be some shady stuff going on with our main guy's past that has brought these people here. But if you would like to just shiver down the spine throughout the entire night, coming home in the dark, if you would like to never go on vacation ever again, and if you would like to make sure that you stay inside and don't go anywhere for the next several days, maybe even a week, coming home in the dark will definitely do the trick. I've found their horror movie selections have been really A-grade this year. I really like The Djinn, which unfortunately is no longer showing at the film festival, but you can find it on VOD. But I really dug The Djinn. And also, I recommended I Blame Society the other day, which is a kind of horror dark comedy from the Hooligante selections. And the last matinee was a previous 3 to see, which looks like super stylish movie drenched, giallo, bright, saturated bloodiness. And so while we're talking about red things and blood, I recommended this a few days ago, but I watched this last night, called Red Heaven documentary. I don't know if any of you checked out Spaceship Earth, which was on Sofa Cinema last year during the kind of middle of the quarantine pandemic times. But it's very similar to that, about this NASA project in the middle of the Hawaiian lava fields, where they sent 6 people out to live in a bubble, in a literal bubble. They can't leave the bubble unless they're wearing spacesuits and stuff like that. They have no internet. They have no real connection to the outside world except for emails and stuff like that. But they are basically trapped in this bubble for a year, and the goal is to see how people would last, a long trip in space to Mars. How would people's psychology handle the kind of stress of not being able to go out particularly and living with the same people for a year? Does this sound a little relatable for people who've been quarantining? But it's a really, really interesting kind of psychological study about people and how their behaviors change and how their psychologies change and how they kind of emotionally and psychologically deal. Like, it never blows up the way that you kind of like, there's like the dark part of your brain that you're just like, I'm fascinated to see when people start fighting in this bubble and how that turns out. It never quite blows up, but you do see the kind of percolating psychological, not demise, but kind of diminishment of these people who, it starts off all fun, and one guy even runs a marathon, but then they're like, God, that person talks so loud. And 2 people start basically having a relationship, and like you get the tensions there of like, oh, like there's this one group here who loves going out and having fun and having a good time, but then there's this one group that stays indoors and is very much rule-based and task-based. Really interesting documentary, I thought. And so I was very much into Red Heaven, so we'll check out Red Heaven. That's not one of my 3 to see today, but it was one of my 3 to see of a previous day. And then my final recommendation is called I Was a Simple Man. Which it's always interesting when the Milwaukee Film Festival just sneaks in little movies that have big stars in them. And like sometimes there's a reason why you don't know and heard of these movies and why they're not getting a lot of attention. Like I remember there was one called Hotel with Alicia Vikander that wasn't great. That was kind of not my favorite movie. But then there's Driveways, which was Brian Dennehy's last film. Hong Chow from Downsizing was in that as well. One of my favorite movies for that came out last year and had previously shown at the Milwaukee Film Festival the year prior. Subdued little movie that, maybe doesn't catch your attention when it's in the Milwaukee Film Festival program book, but you see it and you're like, wow, what a lovely little gem of a movie. And that's what I Was a Simple Man feels like. It is based, kind of a Hawaiian-based film about an old man kind of thinking back on his life and kind of broaching death, kind of similar to Lucky. If you remember why can't I remember his name now? The guy from like Twin Peaks and David Lynch movies. Dean something, says Dean 3 names. Harry Dean Stanton is his name. Kind of like Lucky, where it's, an older man kind of facing death and thinking about his life and kind of coming to terms with all these things. And in this film is Constance Wu, who is incredible in Hustlers. I hope you all checked out Hustlers from 2 years ago. I loved Hustlers. I think Hustlers is one of the top 10 movies of that year. She's really great, and I know Jennifer Lopez deservedly got a lot of the attention for Hustlers, but Constance Wu is also really terrific in Hustlers. And so she plays kind of the spirit of his wife, who is visiting him throughout this movie. And I'm really interested to see, like, Constance Wu really impressed me in Hustlers, and I'd be really interested to see her tackle more dramatic stuff like this and stuff kind of, outside of the fresh off the boat kind of origins of her kind of career bump. Would really be interested to check out I Was a Simple Man. It sounds like a really interesting, thoughtful movie about, an older man kind of looking at his life and looking at death and kind of thinking about this stuff. Those kind of movies. I don't want to say I have a sweet spot for movies, and obviously movies about death would be a weird thing to be like, yes, that's the sweet spot. Do love me some death. But I do like movies that are reflective and like look on your life and think about your choices and think about all that stuff. And also, the movie, I believe, I just want to double check this quick. I believe the movie takes place in Hawaii. And boy, if you want to escape the kind of cold start to summer that we've had, I can't imagine it. Yeah. It's a Hawaiian filmmaker. Christopher Makoto Yogi, I believe, and I believe it takes place in Hawaii as well. But even if it doesn't take place in Hawaii, I imagine hopefully it might take place in someplace sunnier and nicer and generally warmer than we've currently had to start the summer. So definitely check that one out. I Was a Simple Man for everybody. Jackie and Upian for kids, and Coming Home in the Dark for people who like horror movies. Speaking of horror movies, if you're going to watch a horror movie this weekend, watch like The Last Matinee or Coming Home in the Dark. Definitely watch either of those over watching Spiral in theaters, because Spiral is a mess. Like there's some fun gory traps in it, because that's what you go to a Saw movie for. But Chris Rock should not have been the lead of the Saw movie. It always seems like he's doing a stand-up bit, and he is hilarious in the film, which is a shame because the movie is not a comedy. And then there's Army of the Dead, which is the opposite, which is a seemingly fun movie, but is super not as much fun as it should be. A zombie heist movie in Las Vegas should be the most fun I've had since the pandemic started. And instead the movie's like, no, this is a very thoughtful meditation on zombies, and you're like, no, don't want that. I did not sign up for this. Zack Snyder, go back to making Dawn of the Dead. Dawn of the Dead's a fun movie. Watch Dawn of the Dead, either the remake or the original. Like Zack Snyder's best movie. Still the Dawn of the Dead remake. I have gone off track. Hopefully you've been checking out awesome stuff at the Milwaukee Film Festival. We'll be back here every day around noon to talk about more movies, to talk about more picks, more movies that I'm excited to see. Remember, I can't say that all these movies are good. I don't recommend movies that I have watched myself and are good. Sometimes I do. I recommend movies that I am planning on watching. I recommend movies that I am excited to see. I have a to-do list every year on the Milwaukee Film Festival, this long list of movies that I'm looking forward to seeing. I always have this list. And when I only put down the movies that I'm excited about. And the only movies I recommend on these 3 to see are movies that I myself have already seen and enjoyed, or movies that are, that are at least interesting, or at least interesting to me. And hopefully they're interesting to you as well. Please check out the Milwaukee Film Festival. They're doing awesome stuff. Become a Milwaukee Film member. Do that, because Milwaukee Film is awesome. And they're reopening the Oriental in August, everybody. Yeah, boy. Dated reference there. People love the old foghorn sound. But anyways, definitely check out Milwaukee Film. mkefilm.org is where you can buy tickets, buy passes. Me and my mom are going to have a big movie day. We're going to watch some of the movies at the film festival tonight, so that'll be a lot of fun. I will have much more to report back on come tomorrow. I'm finally gonna watch the Pig movie. I've been wanting to watch the Pig movie this entire film festival, Gunda, and it's like, but I want to watch it with somebody. And my significant other is unfortunately on vacation, and my mom wants to see the Pig movie, and we're gonna finally watch the Pig movie tonight. Want to watch the Pig movie? Gunda is the Pig movie, by the way. Great stuff. Rob Thomas, we had him on an earlier 3 to See video. Great writer from the Capital Times out of Madison, awesome guy. He watched Gunda and he was a big fan of it. So I'm very excited to check out Gunda as well. It's been getting great reviews. It's produced by Joaquin Phoenix and has an imprimatur from Paul Thomas Anderson. So all these things are very exciting. It is one of my most excited about movies of the entire film festival. So I'm gonna go watch Pig movie. You all have a wonderful Saturday. We'll see you back here at noon tomorrow to talk about more movies, and I'll meet you back here at noon on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, and then Thursday's the end. That sucks. But don't miss out on the Milwaukee Film Festival. The full lineup is on Milwaukee Film's website, mkefilm.org, as well as on Milwaukee. We have the whole lineup on the site as well there. You can also find my 12 must-sees, the movies that I was the most excited about, on the Milwaukee Film Festival list. You can find those on the site as well. And plus, all of the picks that I've made throughout this entire film festival, all of the 3 to See kind of ones, the deep cuts, and the ones that I'm most excited about, all there. So yeah, so I'm going to go eat lunch and then watch Pig movie. It's going to be great. Have a great day, everybody. I will see you tomorrow, and I will see you at the movies.